Hello, Gwenters. It's a thirsty Thursday, and we are covering Nilfgaard here. I know Nilfgaard is not the most beloved by everyone, and the designers CDPR has said multiple times that they love the faction because it's the faction everyone loves to hate. But they have within that faction a select group of people, also known as Witchers, mutated humans that have found their way into our hearts and souls, and we are going to be covering them today. This is a deck I like to call Consistent Witchers. These series creating this really strong card advantage. Letho Kingslayer at either doubling that card advantage, or my preference with this deck is actually to double up on an Evo and just get some massive point removal with Evo. Now, if you wanted to add in some other Witchers, there's obviously some great options here with Geralt Yurden. I'm not the biggest fan of Lambert Swordmaster, but a lot of people are liking him as a good tech card against Carrick frigates as one example, boosted rats or drones with Kikimor Queen. So he has been finding more effectiveness lately than previously. I've never even bothered to make the card, as I don't find him to be the most effective. And when he falls flat, he falls rather flat. But he does always find 8 points of value unless the opponent has armor or shields. So virtually always finding 8 points so long as you can tech correctly. But Pathfinder being another one that people do like to include with this Letho, with the Letho Kingslayer. Feel free to go for that. Igni being another option here. I don't think you can do this with Ciri Nova. I just don't think there's quite enough points. I would recommend going for a different deck. Namely the Yen Tibor deck with Triss as well, getting those boosts with Hyper Thin. But I had thought about Witchers, and realized that the changes that had been made with Hunting Pack and with Impera Brigade just made this that much more useful of a deck. Now, Daithwin, Arbalists are in here both for the bleeds to get out on the Hunting Pack, but they are also here for the Soldier proc for Impera Brigade, and then Artorias Vigo being a really great option to get out one or the other of Impera Brigade or Hunting Pack. You would have to get very unlucky to not get either of those options, as he does create a 1 power copy of a bronze unit from our starting deck. And here we only have 6 different bronze units. So I guess we do have Viper Witchers, so we do have 7. So that would be, you have a 3 out of 7 chance to grab either Imperial Brigade or Hunting Pack. So they are a little bit of a brick. You do want to keep them in your hand. And then we do also have the Witcher trio here being really useful with Vesemir Mentor to bring out 9 points, but just getting us ultimate thinning, which is why I've called this Consistent Witchers. And then we also use Morvaran here because there are so many of these break cards. We can go ahead and use Morvaran in a round to tempo up with his 6-point play, but also to kind of properly align those brick cards into our hand or deck, depending on what Artorias gives us, etc. So let's jump into a game, show you a bit how this works. Because it is Witchers and it's so familiar, I think this will be one of the shorter videos. But please join me on Twitch. Please subscribe for more content. We'll keep it coming at you. Obviously, doing these weekly videos on each of the factions is a little bit of work, but I really enjoy it. It's really forced me to think outside the box, and I don't know why, but I keep getting paired up against Nilfgaard with Nilfgaard. I mean, it happened last week. It's happening again this week. Just no luck for me. So the big cards we do want are Vesemir. I also highly recommend getting out Magni Division just so we can use Artorias to proc on that other card. But here we will be putting Hunting Pack back, liking our other options so far, as we just have one of the Lamberts. Letho being a bit of a dead card until we can get Sarah and or Ox, hopefully both. Since this is a hyper thin deck, it is pretty easy to get both. And then Ciri just being here is likely our final play when this deck struggles, as it often does, to get some really good points out. So here we'll be boosting up Magnet Division just so they stick. We do want that Soldier proc for the Imperial Brigade. But yeah, like I said, this deck doesn't have like the greatest point slam. It is good at tempoing. It's really good at consistency. And so just wanting to make sure we are pushing our opponent to do what we want them to do. Dodric Lumert's being an interesting play here. Since our opponent doesn't control any agents that can't use his ability right away, we do want to lock him down for a couple of reasons. One, for Hunting Pack, we now have a unit on the opposite side with a status, but the other reason why, he just represents really good value over time for our opponents in their ability to control what's in their hand and in their deck. So every turn, he allows you to draw a card and then move a card from your hand to the bottom of your deck. Our opponent here going for the Purify. We unfortunately don't have a great response to that. But here we do have Trial of the Grasses, which is just a pure 6-point removal card. Really useful, very flexible. I do recommend including it just because it does get you that 6-point removal. Here showcasing how that can work. Otherwise, it's very useful on like Lambert, Vesemir, and Eskel. It's going to boost them up by at least by 9 points if they're already boosted to 3, all the way up to 12 as it boosts Witchers to 12 points without damaging them first. Now here we are rolling the dice, searching for a unit from our opponent to match up with the soldier type. So here we're just going to go for Vesemir Mentor, as he is just kind of a card you can play anytime, anywhere. He's going to boost all the Witchers on the field, in your hand, and in your deck, just giving you some really great flexibility. But Viper Witchers here also representing good value against Nilfgaard, as they are often looking for specific cards, really high value cards in their deck. And since our opponent played Dodric, we know that he doesn't have exactly what he wants right now. We are missing cards to proc a status, so we will be rolling the dice with Artorias. But I think we're going to go ahead and do that just because we would like to see that card. We miss out on both procs, so certainly not the preferred option here, but we're going to get out of this okay. This deck is just so consistent, we don't really need to worry about it. I will say it might have been better here to play Artorias before Vesemir, so that Vesemir could boost up this Viper Witcher on the board since he wasn't in our deck or our hand, but not the end of the world by any means. We are playing on red coin, we are playing on blue coin, our opponent playing on red coin, so we do need to be a little bit thoughtful about how we tempo and push our opponent. Vandemar representing 12 points of value, really great play from our opponent here. But we're going to keep pushing this for as long as we can. This combo representing 9 points. I think we'll hold on to our Viper Witcher in the event that we lose this round. So we'll get out the Witcher trio here. And then we can go ahead and play Ciri and not have to worry about losing or going down a card, because if you lose a round, she's just going to come back to our hand. She can get locked, she can get destroyed, so I find her better to play, honestly, on red coin when your opponent is just going to pass after you've played her anyway. It's being an interesting but useful play from our opponent. And then here, I think we're just going to go ahead and play this Viper Witcher. Again, we're still up in points, so the more we can trash and get rid of, the better. Looks like our opponent is running a ball deck. Probably has a lot of cards they don't really want to lose. We did see one Van Morlehem Hunter. We were able to banish another one, so I would not normally be super worried about locks. But this Imposter card being really problematic with Ciri, actually, because our opponent can go ahead and lock her, prevent her from coming back to our hand, but also have her to get that card advantage back. So but here I'm just having to decide what I value more going into the next round. We are able to get some of these cards that we were hoping to get some good thinning with. Letho being really good. Master of Disguise just not really valuable right now. Magnetic Vision being a little bit better option. Hopefully we can get Magnetic Vision with Imperial Brigade down. and then Siri as well. So just to kind of get rid of some of these bricks. But as soon as our opponent had a unit with shield, we could go ahead and use hunting pack. Obviously lock, poison, vitality, bleed, all of those things are statuses where upon which you can proc this hunting pack. Siri being best when you have 3 separate targets, as she damages 3 enemy units by 1. You can now choose which enemies they are, so decent value there. This is always a really good play. Brothans with Duchess Informant. You can lock this boost and then get this unit back on your row to get some really good value. Here we're okay with that purely because he has left alone our unit and he's spawned 2 units in one place. So we can go ahead here and get out Siri. Just trying to stall our opponent, get them to play something with status so we can use this hunting pack to thin our deck even further. We will be drawing into 3 of these cards. We do want Ivo and Siri Dash. So we're just going to have to see what our opponent provides here. But I actually think I had that pure removal deck from last week. I find Imposter to be actually kind of a better option just because you're not damaging the unit. We'll go ahead and play this, see what our opponent uses. They can either go for the poison option to get this 4-point removal, push us down to 14. But if they do that, we will go ahead and take the loss, but get the Siri back to our hand. So we'll have to see what the opponent goes for. Yen's Invocation, not a good option here in my opinion. We're going to go ahead and pass. They will get boosted. They could end this in a draw, which would end up in their loss as we would get the other half of our crown. So here we've kind of pushed them, gotten them to a place where they have to make some tough choices. They do have that Siri on top of their deck, but Siri just really not that valuable in a round 3. She does get the 3 damage, but she only plays down for 4. She'll no longer be boosted. Our opponent here forced to play down a card I think they would rather have used as an engine in round 3. This deck doesn't really run any Purifies, and it doesn't really run... it doesn't really run anything that can give you flexibility otherwise. Alright, Hunting Pack and Dythwins here, a reasonable option. But here I think we're going to go ahead and put this Hunting Pack back in, and we'll be playing Morvran to try to get Evo out as early as possible. Ox also being a really good option, just so we can use Letho with a lock. But Siri Dash being incredibly important to get out early, just so you have 4 turns. So you need to play her when you have 5 cards in hand, because if you draw the card at the end of the turn, at the end of your last turn, it will force the pass and then draw the card. So you will be passed. You will have passed with 1 card in hand. So really not the best option. So here we're gonna go ahead, get her down, and then we have Letho Kingslayer that will probably be transforming. I anticipate our opponent's going to go for the Imposter lock here, just because it does represent such great value. That extra draw being, again, really great card. And they do need to get it out. Like I said, they are actually down a card against us, so they'll need to get it out sooner than later. Our opponent instead here, I think, going for the poison instead of the lock, which is a little bit interesting. Here we're going to go ahead and play Morvran. See if we can't get like a Letho onto that. Okay, there's Ox. We missed some of the other units we would like to have. I think Master of Disguise just not being super great here. Daythwin's not being necessary, as we now have our lock combo package. And then because we have Ox and Letho, I think we can go ahead and put Van Morlehem Hunter back. So here, as I was saying, we do need to make sure we get this card. So we're going to go ahead and go Letho Kingslayer and copy into this Siri Dash. Our opponent now has to choose between those 2 cards, both for the lock and for the poison. They probably will have the flexibility to do both. Ball just representing so many points for our opponent. Vincent Van Morlehem being a really good example of that. You can obviously, if you can play down Roderick into a Vincent, you get the poison, and then you get the Vincent to kill that poisoned unit, and then get the extra poison onto a different separate unit. So lots of crazy stuff you can do. Here, Ox being really valuable against both of these cards, but here I think we're going to go ahead and lock up their Siri Dash with our Letho. Our opponent's smart enough to know to poison our Siri and lock the other one, just as we had predicted. Here we just kind of have to push and bully our opponent around. We'll use Ox to get the double lock, the point damage not being as valuable as these persistent engines. Usurper Emperor coming out early enough to kind of thwart us here. You can also use Letho Kingslayer to transform into a Usurper Emperor with Fergus, proc the spying description to each of these operatives and steal them back. It's a very effective play. Here I don't think we have enough. I think Ball just represented too much value. Kind of missed some of our draws. Missing Iva was a little hurtful, as we could have had another engine out on the board. Instead here, just having to go for the Letho, Ox, and Serit combo, which is suboptimal. But like I said, I think this Witcher deck I could use a little bit of fine tuning, perhaps round down some of these bronzes to get that pure consistency. But I'd like to hear what you guys think. Here I think we'll go for Hunting Pack, just as our opponent does have so much status, and then just use Serit as our final play. Obviously he's not going to represent enough value, but we'll probably be going after this Ardfane Tortoise, as it represents a 3-point boost as opposed to just a 2-point damage. Would have been nice to have kept that Siri. Obviously we couldn't do that. Would have given us another card so we could have petered out our other Siri dashes a little bit longer. But Nilfgaard just always being problematic. Nilfgaard stealing stuff, wrecking stuff, locking, poisoning, removing. Gets a little bit tiresome. So with that, I am headed off to go take care of personal life stuff, and I hope you guys are taking time for yourselves as well. But get out there and keep on Gwenting.